Are Millennials the Zombie Apocalypse? Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Are the Millennials the Zombie Apocalypse? Well, we need to look at that question with a little bit more scientific inquiry, as we always do on Deceptions of the Ages News, when we look into the mysteries of the ages. Now, the first thing that we need to understand is, how did I possibly ever get involved in the correlation between millennials and zombies? Well, the fact of the matter is, if you don't know it, I have a podcast called Books in Hindsight. On that podcast, I interview great authors. One of the great authors I interviewed was J.D. Covert. J.D. Covert is the author of Zombie Scouts, which is being turned into a Hollywood movie. Now, when I was talking to author J.D. Covert, or Covert, as in covert operations, I'm sorry, we were talking about the inspiration for her book, and she said that she had asked her son, when he's in the Boy Scouts, what do they talk about around campfires? Answer, I would think girls. Guess not. It's the zombie apocalypse. Now, this shook me a little bit, first of all, because I had no idea what it was she was talking about. So I did a little research, and this is what I came up with. And the facts I'm going to present to you now, you can judge for yourself as to whether or not the millennials, these people you see walking around staring at their phones with no idea what is going on around them, could they be the zombie apocalypse? Well, first of all, let's get a definition of what is a zombie and what is an apocalypse. Now, according to something I saw on the internet, I looked it up, and here's something that will prove my point right here. I guess it's flashing there for a second. A zombie is a person who was dead or brought back from the dead using black magic. Now, this happened in Haiti, or at least it originated in Haiti, but somehow it has managed to populate our popular culture. So, what is then the correlation between a zombie apocalypse and the millennials? Well, if we take into account that a zombie is somebody who has been brought back from the dead, is there something about millennials that may strike us as them being dead? Well, we just have to look at their education. If you listen to them talk, if you watch the TV ads that advertise to them, you can see that there is not a level of thinking there much above what for most of us would be like the 7th grade, unless you're like from Europe or something, and bring that down to like the 4th grade. But these millennials, they don't have the best of education, and you can see it as they mispronounce their words and they cite unfathomable facts that apparently they got from YouTube. Now, the next thing about millennials, or I'm sorry, about zombies, my mistake. Zombies are always hungry. They're always hungry for brains. Now, is there something that correlates with our millennials and zombies and their insatiable appetite for brains? Well, millennials too, based on the fact that they are young and they have a notion that they should not have to work or work hard, They are always looking for something for free, which is why they tend towards communism and socialism, because they think somebody else should do the work. So if you give them food, especially out in the wild, you're just going to condition them and they'll want to come back for more. So that's one thing that you have to be careful about millennials, is be careful not to feed them, because like the zombies, they are always hungry. Now, the next thing that we have to look at with zombies and what characterizes them as zombies is they tend to be extremely antisocial. That is, unless they are in a group of zombies with a like-minded aim of finding fresh brains. Then they seem to cooperate amongst each other. Now, there is a very similar, characteristic of millennials, where they tend to be shy, and by themselves they will be happy just to look at their phone. But in a group, especially under the influence of maybe some ill-gained alcohol bought from not being old enough, or maybe some of the legal weed available in some states or not, millennials in groups tend to be a little bit more dangerous, especially when you're talking about politics. Millennials tend to be a little bit more left-leaning, as I mentioned before, because of that lack of an education and because they don't feel that they should have to work to make a living. Now, another thing that will bring a millennial out into action is not only politics, but a chance to have a viral video on YouTube. So when that opportunity presents itself, a millennial will jump into action and do just about anything, not even short of, well, we can only hope of being short of, eating human brains. Now, if you have, like a lot of people, come to the conclusion that millennials are actually the zombie apocalypse, you have to ask yourself, what can I do to protect myself and my family? Well, first of all, the first thing that you can do to protect yourself from this zombie/millennial apocalypse is don't ever stand out. Always go out in public, especially by yourself, looking at your phone. Even if you're not somebody who traditionally looks at your phone, if you see a group of these millennials milling about, just look at your phone. It makes them feel more at ease. It makes them feel less uncomfortable. It makes the little snowflakes not want to melt. The next thing you need to do to protect yourself when you're out in public from these zombie/millennials is never ever use words you learned past the 7th grade. Now, if you come from Europe, just make that 4th grade and make it English in a lot of cases. Never use big words. Never use words like nucleotide or hypotenuse or summary. You have to be very careful about these kinds of words because they will make you stand out as somebody who might have an education. Now, for goodness sake, never, ever, ever spell anything out loud. If you're spelling without a spell check, they're going to smell you right out. Number 3, never, as I mentioned before, ever give free food to a starving millennial. That will just reinforce their faith in socialism and communism and the fact that somebody else should be doing the work and not them. Now finally, this is probably the most important of all of the steps to protect yourself from the zombie/millennial apocalypse. And that is when you're in public, especially if you're like in California or Washington or Oregon, never, or I should add New York, never ever say, "Make America Great Again." This is Deceptions of the Ages News. We'll see you next time.